can't believe that. I mean, I can't believe that I can't remember the Civil War, but I thought you would remember.
Wait, so it was technically called the Civil War? Because I'll Google it.
Yeah, the English Civil War.
The English Civil War. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
So that's where your term royalist comes from.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Because then you had two groups, the royalists and the Roundheads, right?
Yeah. That's right.
Roundheads?
Because of what they used to wear.
Helmets they used to wear.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
42 to 51.
1642.
Yeah, 1642.
And 16, that was...
So Queen Elizabeth I, she died in 1605.
Yep.
And then she didn't have any children, and then it was King James of Scotland, actually became King James of England. And they merged, that joined England with Scotland.
Okay.
And then he was king, and then I think his son is Charles I.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he was executed.
And then Charles I was executed.
How specific do you want me to be about where I'm from? I probably should just say Staffordshire.
Oh, you might have to spell that too.
Okay.
Do you want it?
I could say Kings Bromley. How about that? Staffordshire. Because you can say York.
I'm going to say York. Yeah.
You're going to say York. Or should I say?
Because it's the Duke of York. So.
I could say Kings Bromley then.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Is it like that? Is somebody going to understand what the hell you're talking
it's
about?
A village. It's a village. That's the thing. I come from a village. So maybe I'll just say Staffordshire. But I don't.
Why do you say Burton? No.
No, I'm not saying I'm from Burton.
Oh.
All right. So where am I looking? Are you?
This is going to take hours.
I thought that would be the simpler question.
I think I should say Kings Bromley because it's kind of fun.
Okay, well, no.
I love it.
Yeah.
You watched The Crown.
We do.
Did you guys like it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's absolutely enthralling, and not only is it produced amazingly well and acted. I'm just learning a whole load of things that I probably should have known about anyway. But after every episode, we have to look up. Some more
absolutely.
history.
Yeah, I'm finding out things that I didn't know about the early life of the Queen.
What I'm learning is, for her time, I could almost consider Queen Elizabeth a feminist of sorts. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. She was a young woman in an environment surrounded by an establishment full of lots of old men who were quite, let's say, resistant, but maybe they weren't willing to listen to a young queen like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that she, at that point in time, had to live up to huge expectations. The country was changing, the role of the monarch was changing, and so, but at the same time, there was a risk that the monarchy could disappear, and I think so she was constantly treading this fine line between making sure that she was modernizing, but not able to go too far as well, because not only did she believe in the traditions associated with the crown and the importance of those traditions, but so did so many people in the country and the kind of establishment as well. So it always seemed like it was a fine line that she was treading. I don't remember being introduced to the idea of the Queen or the monarchy, simply because it was always there. It was always a part of, life, and, there's her head on all of the coins and the notes, and in fact, I remember being more confused. We were just talking about this earlier. There was a coin, a 5p coin, when I was growing up. It was actually an old shilling that used to have George VI's head on it, and that was odd because it was an old coin, but it was still in circulation. I remember thinking, "Who's that?" Because that seemed odd to me that it didn't have the Queen's head on, because that was just de facto, and it was a given, and it wasn't really explained. But I think it's only when you kind of get to history lessons, when you start kind of digging into the history of kings and queens through England, that you kind of put all the pieces together. Realize kind of that she's just the latest in this long line. Entwined in that is the idea that, you know, Britain has wanted a monarchy, and you know, with the Civil War, when there was a period where we didn't have a king or queen, it was notable that we then, you know, decided to go back.
So Charles I, he claimed a divine right to rule over England without the authority of the barons and the knights, who decided to get rid of him, to try him, and he was actually executed outside Westminster Hall in London. And then there was a period of time, it's about how long?
10 years?
Around
7
10
years?
years, something like that, where we had no monarchy.
Was it a big deal in your household, the monarchy, as far as your parents were concerned?
I mean, not really, because we sort of grew up with them in the background.
Yeah.
You know, we're just used to there being a queen, and
sort of like that throw pillow in the background. Just
right,
sort
right.
Of like...
It's something you can put on a cushion. Maybe that's trivializing a little bit.
But I'm also assuming there's households where it's really over the top.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I think so, and I also think that the Crown is one of those institutions in Britain. There's definitely people who are royalists and, you know, hold it up to be kind of extremely important. There's definitely people who would like to get rid of it completely, think it's antiquated and a waste of money. And it's definitely something that at school we used to talk about, and it was one of the things that would come up in a debate class, for instance, is to sort of put forward both sides of the argument. There's a lot of people who, in England, who kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, and, you know, on the one hand, they like to criticise the Crown, and especially, you know, when there's lots of dramas and everything, but on the other hand, they all love reading about that, and we kind of love the pomp and circumstance of it. A lot of it comes down to, you know, the fact that the monarchy costs a lot of money, and that's money that comes in some measure from taxpayers. I think the question becomes, you know, what do you get in return? And actually, we do get a lot in return. There's a lot of money that is brought in through tourism, because people love all of that, you know, that angle. On the other hand, you could argue, well, you could open up the palaces even if the monarchy didn't exist. But I think there's something super interesting about the fact that it is a working royal family, and it's still there, and you can still see people, and you know, and all the drama that goes with it as well, that keeps it.
And that's definitely happened as the monarchy modernized. You know, more of the Queen's children have their own professions. Some part that comes from the history of her father having to take on being king after her uncle gave up the throne in order to marry the woman he loved, and that some would say that the abandonment of duty that was kind of instilled in her the duty that she has to fulfill, and that's why she's never going to abdicate. She's 91.
That's
she's
right.
I think she will keep going until she dies.
Because she believes that she has to, because of that sense of duty. Duty is the word that we were looking for.
Yeah, she's no, she is really the right woman for the job. I mean, she's very impressive in that.
I do think the fact that she is a woman as well may well have contributed to the survival of the crown throughout the last 50 years. Because
your
people's...
queens have been amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth I, she was
Yeah, yeah.
incredible lady.
And I think because, we talked about feminism, I think because she, has obviously been a beacon in that regard. I don't know whether everyone would think that was the case, because, as we can tell from the crown, a lot of what she has to do is blend into the background. But I think, she also is bringing great strength as well in the fact that she is so determined to do the job to the best that she can and keep everything going.
If the monarchy was more political, I bet you anything.
It wouldn't have survived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's actually she cannot do anything, in remotely political, which is quite interesting with Charles coming up, who has expressed some political views. I think he knows the role that he has been prepared for.
Yes.
It's just he
might want to have more of a say.
Yeah, and he does write letters to government.
There was a bit of a scandal. It was revealed that he had, tried to influence various political sort of scenarios. And sometimes, those things that he was writing about are really not contentious. Like, just we need more supplies for our troops and that kind of thing. But sometimes there's been some things that are fairly political. So there's a question that exists as to whether he will continue, to try and exert that kind of influence when he becomes king. I think there is going to be some shock around the world, especially to people who don't live in England, if the Queen dies, I probably should say, but that the person who's going to take over is Charles and not William, because Charles is actually next in line in the throne. And I think about when Charles will take over, I find that idea quite foreign. I feel like having a king seems extremely antiquated, whereas having a queen just seems normal. So I do think it's going to be a bit weird, and it will make a few people reassess.
You guys, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love it. I love talking to the Queen and stuff.